Volleyball is a team sport. Despite all the coach's emphasis on the development of individual skills, which are essential equipment of a good volleyball player, it is the unpredictable flow of the game that attracts the viewer's eye.
We are still far from the advanced form of the game at the age of U14, but the path to excellence leads not only through practice, but also through preparatory games. Today we will focus on games that develop one of the basic volleyball skills, setting.
In volleyball, setting is usually taught first. To make things easier for the children, we start with a game using one touch, meaning one set only. But the real path to proper setting is opened by the red mini volleyball. Ironically, it is not so much about handwork, but mainly about footwork, because volleyball is all about the legs.
That's why the red mini volleyball was founded. It solves the problem of movement under the ball, and we are not forced to invent ingenious exercises and worry about endless didactic instructions and corrections. Red Mini Volleyball solves it for us.
However, we also need individual games for training, so we will use a rule from Mini Volleyball, where we let players play with one extra set to themselves. This increases the chances of the kids being able to keep the ball in play, and that's fun for the kids. Girls ages 12 to 13 who have already had a few years of training can handle this game excellently. We stress again that the goal of this drill is not the setting itself, but the proper movement under the ball.
Footwork will serve primarily as a prerequisite for future setters to have comfort in their own setting and to be able to use their precision and creativity.
The boys are not as honest in their training, but all the more cunning. And then there's our favorite basketball, remember that? It still helps us in that it pushes the thumbs down due to its weight. This emphasizes proper technique with the involvement of the thumbs and index fingers. Isn't that too hard for the girls? It's not. As long as they have the correct technique, they can do it with bravado.
Then we move on. If we have already picked out the future setters, it is good for them to play first touch as a set and as a second touch overhead set behind them on the opponent's side. It is still about leg movement, but in this case, this exercise already offers a major benefit to the technique of setting over the head.
Since this is a game that is all about putting pressure on the opponent, this brings interesting situations for the setters, similar to those in the game. The game is always played for points. The numbers are not always turned over by the assistant, but perhaps by another player. Yet this game has already had a different benefit, namely the application of proper technique of overhead set in natural game situations. In training, we need to quickly define the territory of the pitch. For example, we can use rubber discs.
And of course, the basketball must not be missing. These girls really don't have to be ashamed of their setting technique anymore. They're really starting to be setters.
Now we're going to go back a little bit to exercises that develop foot movement under the ball. These 11-year-old boys are still very playful, and header exercises are fun for them. With the girls, we are going to be more gentle and use shoulder exercises instead of header exercises. Principles the same. Move away from the ball and stop. Here we are focusing on the backward movement. This variant can develop into a very interesting game.
If we're already at this stage of the player's development, we can easily use the bump pass for the first touch with the ball, because we have already taught the children how to move their feet correctly at this stage of their development, and it is not necessary to play at any cost and the first touch as a set. And then there is the wall, so successfully used in the preparation of tennis players. Let's learn from them. They are world class, and some say the wall is the best teacher. The court must be clearly marked.
We've come to one-on-one games, which the boys love. With the setters, we try again with the basketball, and then comes the highlight, the one-touch game, where only an overhead set is allowed. That's really not for everyone anymore. The game is extremely demanding both in terms of foot movement and setting technique, but those who can master it will have no problem in difficult passing situations in the real game.
Then we would have games of singles, and I'm sure many other modifications can be devised, but you must always be clear whether you are aiming for handwork or footwork. Now moving on to pairs. We've already done the red mini volleyball. Here we'll start with a 2 touches game. First the 10-year-olds and then the 12-year-olds. You can feel the 2 years doing their thing. Then comes the 3 touches game, which is actually classic volleyball, just setting only. 11-year-olds have no trouble at all.
Next is the volleyball with an extra set to yourself, which actually reminds a bit of the red mini volley, but you can see that here, it's about something else. And we start to add extra tasks to the exercises, which, as we said before, take time and force the players to react faster. In addition, we are bringing another player into the game in a non-violent way. Here is the more difficult option, where the extra task makes the situation even more difficult. We can invent additional tasks and different variations endlessly. The important thing is to know why we are doing it. In this case, 2 players from the foursome take part in beginning, the other 2 have to circle the court until the beginning is over, and then the roles change. It's also a distraction because we're working with children. By contrast, this exercise is purely a setting exercise. One player handles the first ball over herself, the other sets to a teammate who attacks by setting behind her head. Here the setting actually becomes attacking.
The following exercise is a bit more complicated because both players play behind the head. The setters simply need to take thousands of hits in different situations. And here come the tasked games again, this time in foursomes, but only 2 play each time. This is similar to the game we've already introduced with threesomes. And then there is the game in which all 4 players are still involved, but also tasked.
At the very end, we offer games that carry a mandatory tactical task. For example, here the setter must set to the one who did not play the first ball. And we finish with an exercise in which, in addition to setting, there are also receiving and attacking. Yet the main task of the exercise is that the setter must set behind the head. For that reason, we include this game among those that focus on setting.
In today's episode, we showed you a variety of fun games to make your training more enjoyable. All the games are designed to be entertaining while also helping you improve your skills. In the next episode, we'll look at how to properly receive serves, which is not an easy task, but don't worry, we'll teach you how to do it.